Russia's ongoing military struggles in Ukraine have exposed critical vulnerabilities in its federal structure. As the Russia-Ukraine war update today shows mounting casualties and strategic setbacks, another threat looms larger: Chechnya's potential secession. This breakaway scenario represents more than just the loss of territory, it threatens to unravel the entire Russian Federation. The combination of historical precedents, economic dependencies, and complex ethnic dynamics suggests that Chechen independence could trigger a catastrophic chain reaction. From the vital oil and gas infrastructure to military strategic positions in the Caucasus, Chechnya's departure would strike at the core of Russia's power structure, potentially leading to the country's systematic dissolution. Let's learn more about this issue in this video. Historical precedents of secession. Historical precedents demonstrate how separatist movements can rapidly transform seemingly stable nations. The dissolution of the Soviet Union stands as the most significant template for understanding potential Russian fragmentation in the modern era. The Soviet Union's dissolution in 1991 provides crucial insights into how quickly a multinational state can unravel. The process began with Estonia declaring sovereignty in 1988, followed by Lithuania's full independence declaration in March 1990. By late 1991, amid a political crisis, 8 republics had declared independence. The final dissolution occurred on December 25, 1991, when the Soviet flag was lowered at the Kremlin for the last time. The collapse of the Soviet Union led to several significant outcomes that reshaped the geopolitical landscape. One of the most notable consequences was the emergence of 15 independent states, as the former Soviet republics gained sovereignty and established their own national identities. In addition, the breakup of the USSR resulted in the transfer of nuclear weapons to 4 of these new nations, a development that had far-reaching implications for global security. The political reordering also prompted a dramatic transformation of alliances in Eastern Europe, with former satellite states seeking new relationships with the West. This period of change gave rise to new regional power dynamics, with Russia striving to assert its influence while newly independent countries navigated their paths in a rapidly shifting world order. Chechnya's resistance against Russian control dates back to 1785. After the Soviet collapse, Chechnya made its initial bid for independence under Dokar Dudayev, who won 90.1% of votes with 72% turnout in October 1991. The First Chechen War, 1994 to 1996, resulted in separatist victory, though the region's independence remained internationally unrecognized. The Second Chechen War began in 1999, leading to Moscow's reassertion of control by 2000. During these conflicts, up to 25,000 civilians died, and 300,000 people were displaced at the height of violence in early 2000. Global experience shows that approximately half of today's nation-states originated as breakaway entities. Recent history has witnessed about 70 active separatist movements globally, with 26 new countries emerging just since 1990. Successful independence movements typically require several critical elements: international support, regional backing, economic viability, and strong institutions. However, failed attempts often result in prolonged conflicts and forced migrations. The current Russia-Ukraine war update today echoes these historical patterns, as regional tensions continue to reshape post-Soviet spaces. The experience of separatist movements demonstrates that success depends heavily on the international environment and timing. When empires or large states collapse suddenly, the resulting political vacuum often creates opportunities for new state formation. This historical pattern suggests that any potential Chechen secession could trigger similar movements across Russia's ethnically diverse regions. Economic devastation potential. The potential secession of Chechnya threatens to inflict severe economic damage on Russia's already strained economy, particularly as the nation grapples with international sanctions amid the Russia-Ukraine war update today. Chechnya's strategic position in Russia's energy sector makes it crucial for national economic stability. The region's oil reserves, though modest at 50 million tons, represent a critical component of Russia's energy infrastructure. Recent production statistics show concerning trends. In 2014, oil extraction dropped from 804,000 tons in 2011 to 450,000 tons. The region's petrochemical industry centered in Grozny serves as a vital processing hub. The current infrastructure supports a potential refining capacity of 1 million tons annually. The geographic significance of Chechnya extends beyond resource extraction. The territory serves as a crucial nexus for major highways connecting South Russia with the Caspian Sea, essential railroad networks linking Russian territories, and strategic pipelines routing through Grozny. The economic consequences of potential Chechen secession mirror previous separatist attempts, which proved financially devastating. Throughout earlier conflicts, Russia encountered significant economic challenges that were both immediate and long-lasting. But one of the most notable indicators was the daily cost of war, which averaged around $30 million. Additionally, the costs associated with rebuilding infrastructure after the destruction caused by the conflict were staggering. In some instances, the Russian government requested up to $260 billion for reconstruction efforts. Supporting refugees and internally displaced persons was another major expense, amounting to around $11 million per month. The financial strain extends beyond direct costs. During previous conflicts, the ruble lost 10% of its value in just 28 days, while inflation surged to 16.4% monthly. Current economic indicators suggest similar vulnerabilities, especially as Russia's federal budget faces unprecedented pressure from international sanctions. The region's economic stability remains precarious, with unemployment previously reaching 90%. International investment has been limited due to security concerns, while humanitarian organizations have largely withdrawn from the region. This economic fragility, combined with Chechnya's heavy dependence on federal support, suggests that secession would trigger significant economic disruptions across both entities. Military strategic implications. The military implications of Chechen secession pose a severe threat to Russia's defense capabilities, particularly as Moscow's forces face mounting challenges in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Update today. The Caucasus represents a critical strategic choke point for Russian military power. Recent data shows approximately 38,000 fighters from Chechnya, including over 16,000 volunteers, are currently participating in Russian military operations. The region has formed 4 regiments and 5 battalions from the Ministry of Defense and National Guard, highlighting its significance in Russia's military structure. The military training center in Gudurmes has gained significant importance for the Russian armed forces, becoming a key asset in the region. As Russia looks to maintain its influence in the North Caucasus and surrounding areas, Gudurmes plays a crucial role in preparing its military for a range of strategic operations. The center's growing significance is reflected in the potential expansion of naval facilities in nearby regions, which could significantly shift the regional power dynamics. Current military assessments indicate several strategic advantages tied to these developments. Firstly, control over vital transportation corridors in the region provides Russia with greater leverage in terms of both logistics and mobility. These routes are critical not only for domestic military operations, but also for securing supply lines and troop movements in case of escalating tensions with neighboring nations. Secondly, the establishment of a strategic depth against NATO's expansion is becoming an increasingly important factor. By reinforcing its presence in areas like Gudurmes and expanding its naval capabilities, Russia can create a defensive buffer that helps to counterbalance NATO's influence on its borders. Finally, the control over critical military installations in the region enhances Russia's ability to command and coordinate military operations, thus fortifying its regional dominance. These developments are likely to have far-reaching consequences for the balance of power in the region and the broader geopolitical landscape. Russia's defense infrastructure is grappling with significant vulnerabilities that have undermined the overall effectiveness of its military. One of the primary challenges is related to structural issues, which have led to severe administrative dislocations within the military. Additionally, the operational status of Russia's armed forces has been marked by widespread inefficiency within the power structures, further impeding the military's capacity to respond effectively to emerging threats. Furthermore, the combat readiness of the Russian military has been steadily declining, reducing its ability to maintain a high level of effectiveness, particularly against more motivated and agile opponents. This combination of administrative, operational, and readiness issues poses a serious challenge to Russia's defense capabilities and its ability to assert power on the global stage. The potential for Chechen secession poses a serious threat to Russian military morale, which is already under considerable strain due to ongoing conflicts. Historical evidence from previous Chechen wars reveals how separatist movements can have a profound impact on military effectiveness. One of the key issues was the Russian military's historical amnesia, a failure to learn from past mistakes, which led to significant intelligence failures. This lack of awareness hindered the military's ability to assess the true nature of the threat, resulting in costly miscalculations. Furthermore, military leadership displayed a limited understanding of their weaknesses, often underestimating the challenges faced by their forces on the ground. This lack of strategic insight contributed to poor decision-making and ineffective operational responses. In addition, corruption within the Russian military has severely undermined both combat capability and unit cohesion. The diversion of resources for personal gain weakened the military's readiness and morale while fostering an environment of distrust among ranks. The situation is further complicated by systemic issues within the Russian military structure. Reports indicate widespread Devastation, military hazing, which has contributed to poor unit cohesion and operational effectiveness. These internal challenges have been exacerbated by the current conflict environment, where Russian forces face multiple strategic pressures. The military's strategic implications extend beyond immediate tactical concerns. The Russian armed forces' ability to maintain control over the broader Caucasus region depends heavily on stability in Chechnya. Recent developments show that Russia's military presence in the region has become increasingly complex, with multiple external actors gaining influence. This evolving situation threatens to further complicate Russia's military position as it attempts to maintain strategic control while managing ongoing operations in Ukraine. Domino effect on other regions. Chechenya's potential secession threatens to trigger a cascade of independence movements across Russia's diverse regions, particularly as the Russia-Ukraine war update today highlights Moscow's vulnerabilities. Separatist sentiments are most pronounced in Russia's North Caucasus region, where they manifest as the strongest and most developed movements across all of Russia's territories. This area is highly volatile, with 3 key regions exhibiting varying levels of separatist intensity, each driven by different factors. In Dagestan, the separatist movement is the most intense, primarily fueled by religious motivations, as various groups seek greater autonomy or independence in the context of Islamic identity and governance. Ingushetia exhibits a strong separatist sentiment, largely driven by ethnic concerns, as the English people have historically sought to assert their identity and political autonomy within the Russian Federation. North Ossetia, while showing moderate separatist activity, is influenced by territorial disputes, particularly with neighboring regions like Ingushetia, which has sparked calls for greater territorial control and self-determination. These diverse drivers of separatism highlight the complex and multifaceted nature of the region's unrest, each region pursuing its distinct form of resistance against Moscow's authority. Multiple territorial disputes fuel inter-republic tensions, including conflicts between Chechnya and Ingushetia, North Ossetia and Ingushetia, and Chechnya and Dagestan. These conflicts serve Moscow's interests by preventing the formation of a unified separatist movement. However, recent developments, including Ukraine's recognition of the Chechen Republic of Ishkuria as temporarily occupied by Russia, have added international legitimacy to independence aspirations. The potential for regional destabilization is amplified by several critical factors. Local elites are actively strengthening national identity among their populations, while rapid demographic changes and high unemployment rates create fertile ground for separatist sentiments. The situation is further complicated by growing assertiveness among local elites seeking federal support, religious factors among young people increasing sharply, and proactive efforts by international actors in the region. The economic vulnerability of these regions adds another layer of instability. With substantial dependency on financial support from Moscow, any reduction in funding due to prolonged Western sanctions could trigger widespread disillusionment. This economic pressure, combined with ethnic tensions and religious factors, creates a potentially explosive situation across Russia's southern regions. Recent developments in the Russia-Ukraine war update today have emboldened various separatist movements. The emergence of North Caucasus volunteer battalions in the Ukraine conflict, including the Dokhar Dudayev Battalion and the Sheikh Mansour Battalion, demonstrates the potential for regional military organization independent of Moscow's control. The situation is particularly critical in Dagestan, where separatism lacks a single titular ethnic group but maintains the highest level of religious-based independence sentiment. This unique dynamic makes the region especially susceptible to broader destabilization, potentially catalyzing similar movements across Russia's ethnically diverse territories. International relations impact. The international community's response to potential Chechen secession threatens to reshape Russia's global standing, particularly as Western nations reassess their relationships amid the Russia-Ukraine war update today. Russia's handling of Chechen conflicts has significantly undermined its international credibility. The United Nations Commission on Human Rights passed 2 resolutions in 2000 and 2001 condemning human rights violations in Chechnya. Between 2005 and 2007, the European Court of Human Rights held Russia responsible for numerous deaths, disappearances, and torture cases. These violations have led to severe international reactions. Russia's application to join the Council of Europe was suspended, marking a significant diplomatic setback. Additionally, multiple UN resolutions called for thorough investigations into the allegations, signaling global concern over Russia's actions. The situation prompted widespread diplomatic criticism from Western nations, which condemned Russia's conduct and called for accountability. The European Union and NATO have consistently exerted pressure on Russia over its actions in Chechnya, highlighting serious concerns about human rights violations and the conduct of military operations. NATO, in particular, has required its member states to adhere to strict standards, insisting that they demonstrate civilian control over military operations. This principle is designed to ensure that military actions are subject to oversight and are not conducted without regard for political and ethical considerations. Additionally, NATO has emphasized the importance of accountability for wartime violations, urging member states to take responsibility for any breaches of international law committed during armed conflicts. Finally, NATO has stressed the necessity of compliance with international humanitarian law, ensuring that military operations respect the rights and protections of civilians, even in times of war. These requirements reflect NATO's commitment to upholding human rights and the rule of law, and they underscore the broader international expectations placed on Russia in its military actions in Chechnya. A stark contrast emerges in enforcement standards. While Croatia was barred from NATO's Partnership for Peace program until addressing war crimes, Russia has seen minimal accountability despite hundreds of reported violations. The European Union's stance on Russia's actions in Chechnya has evolved through several distinct phases, each marked by specific actions and impacts. In 1995, the EU paused its partnership agreement with Russia as a response to the escalating conflict and human rights violations in Chechnya. This action affected economic relations between Russia and the EU, highlighting the European Union's concern over Russia's conduct in the region. Between 2000 and 2001, the EU, along with the United Nations, supported resolutions condemning the human rights violations in Chechnya, using diplomatic pressure to push Russia toward accountability. In 2006, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, PACE, passed a resolution that sharply criticized Russia's actions in Chechnya, marking the beginning of more institutionalized criticism. While these actions signified EU discontent, they also illustrated the EU's struggle to hold Russia accountable for its violations, especially compared to the measures taken against other nations. Russia's relationships with Asian powers have shown complex dynamics during Chechen conflicts. China has emerged as a significant supporter, with Chinese Legislative Chairman Li Peng expressing full support for Russia's actions in Chechnya. However, other regional responses have been mixed. Iran's position in international relations reflects a careful balance of diplomatic pragmatism, where it seeks to navigate complex geopolitical dynamics while advancing its interests. A key aspect of this pragmatism is Iran's support for nuclear cooperation, which it views as essential for its technological and security advancement. At the same time, Iran remains deeply concerned about regional stability, particularly in the context of ongoing conflicts and the presence of foreign military forces in the Middle East. Additionally, religious solidarity plays a significant role in Iran's foreign policy, especially with Shiite communities across the Middle East. Turkey's response has been particularly nuanced, influenced by its Kurdish-Turkish conflict, while allowing nationalist organizations to support Chechen forces. The situation has led to significant shifts in regional alliances, with Russia increasingly relying on partnerships with nations less concerned about human rights issues. Recent developments in the Russia-Ukraine war update today have further complicated these relationships as Asian partners reassess their positions based on evolving global dynamics. The European Parliament's recognition of historical deportations as genocide has added another layer of complexity to Russia's international standing, potentially influencing future diplomatic engagements and strategic partnerships. Internal political consequences. Potential Chechen secession presents unprecedented challenges to Russia's internal political structure, with ramifications extending far beyond regional control. The situation threatens to fundamentally alter the power dynamics within the Russian Federation. Vladimir Putin's grip on power, while appearing strong with approval ratings around 80%, faces increasing pressure from multiple directions. The regime's stability rests on three critical pillars: elite loyalty maintained through patronage networks, control over security services, and public support through state media dominance. Recent developments show Putin's authority becoming increasingly personalized, transforming Russia from an authoritarian state into a true personalist dictatorship. The absence of viable alternatives remains one of the most critical pillars of regime stability, while the costs of opposing the regime have grown substantially for Russian elites. The relationship between Moscow and Chechnya serves as a clear example of the fragility within Russia's federal structure. Under the leadership of Ramzan Kadyrov, Chechnya has developed a distinctive and informal status, often referred to as internal foreign. This unique status reflects Chechnya's relative autonomy from Moscow in several key aspects. One of the most notable features is the local authority, where Chechnya operates with limited central control from the Russian government. This decentralization allows Kadyrov to wield significant power within the region, often bypassing federal directives in favor of his governance style. In terms of the legal system, Chechnya has implemented informal local schemes that operate parallel to Russian federal laws. These systems often prioritize traditional and local customs over the formal legal structures imposed by Moscow, further distancing the region from national policies. Additionally, Chechnya has developed a cultural identity that is separate from the broader Russian norms, emphasizing its unique ethnic, religious, and historical characteristics. This growing divergence underscores the complexities of Russia's federal system, where regional leaders like Kadyrov exert substantial influence, leading to a weakening of centralized control and a potential challenge to national unity. Kadyrov's strongman rule has led to a form of autarky within the republic, creating tensions between regional autonomy and federal control. The situation is further complicated by Kadyrov's political ambitions clashing with Putin's determination to maintain central authority. The potential for opposition movement growth remains constrained by several factors. The Kremlin has significantly increased repression and effectively closed down independent political forums. However, certain developments indicate growing pressure points. First is the economic challenges. The ruble has fallen to all-time lows, supply chain disruptions affect multiple sectors, and labor shortages, particularly in IT and engineering. Besides, there are political vulnerabilities such as security services' inability to act without direct instruction, growing tensions between different power centers, and increasing regional autonomy demands. The situation is further complicated by the emergence of different visions for Russia's future among the elite, split between pragmatists seeking policy reforms and hardliners advocating for more extreme measures. This internal division, combined with mounting economic pressures and regional tensions, creates potential vulnerabilities in the current political structure. The regime's response to these challenges has been to increase centralization and repression, while simultaneously attempting to maintain the delicate balance of power with regional leaders like Kadyrov. This strategy has led to what analysts describe as a massive roadblock on the way to Russia's modernization and transformation, potentially hampering the country's ability to address mounting internal challenges effectively. Social fabric disruption. Deepening social divisions and ethnic tensions threaten to tear apart Russia's complex multicultural fabric as the nation grapples with internal strife amid ongoing military operations in Ukraine. The historical pattern of ethnic conflict continues to have a profound influence on modern Russia's social landscape, with the trauma of past events still resonating in the present. One of the most significant episodes in this history occurred during World War II when Stalin's regime forcibly deported the entire Chechen population to Kazakhstan and Siberia. This brutal policy left an indelible mark on the collective memory of the Chechens. The enduring consequences of this tragedy continue to fuel tensions, particularly between the Chechen population and the Russian state, contributing to the instability in the North Caucasus region. In addition to these historical grievances, recent demographic shifts in Russia have revealed concerning trends that could further complicate the nation's social and political dynamics. One of the most notable patterns is the increasing growth of Islamic peoples, who are outpacing the ethnic Russian population in several regions. This demographic shift is especially pronounced in the North Caucasus, where Islamic communities have a significant presence, and it is contributing to a growing sense of cultural and religious identity that could challenge Russia's traditional norms. Meanwhile, in the northern regions of Russia, there is a noticeable decline in population, driven by both economic hardships and migration patterns. This gradual depopulation is also affecting the far eastern areas, which are seeing a decreasing population and raising security concerns, particularly as Russia faces challenges in maintaining its territorial integrity in these sparsely populated regions. Together, these demographic changes highlight the evolving complexities of Russia's social fabric and the potential for future ethnic and regional tensions. Russia's concept of national identity faces unprecedented challenges. The Russian world ideology, designed to connect approximately 30 million Russian compatriots living beyond Russia's borders, has become increasingly problematic. This identity crisis manifests in several ways, such as weakening social cohesion due to growing inequality, disruption of traditional relationships, and strain on cultural and religious connections. The situation in border regions exemplifies these tensions. In Belgorod Oblast alone, recent military activities led to the evacuation of 9,000 children to safer regions, while systematic cross-border shelling forced the relocation of approximately 40,000 residents from Shebekino. Public attitudes toward ethnic minorities and national unity have undergone significant changes. The emergence of xenophobic sentiments has created additional pressure points, particularly in regions experiencing high migration rates. These shifts are evident in several key areas. Recent conflicts have resulted in devastating human costs. The two Chechen wars alone led to the deaths of up to 300,000 people, creating lasting trauma in collective memory. The impact extends beyond direct casualties, affecting social infrastructure and cultural relations. The situation is further complicated by Russia's internal colonization practices, which have historically involved settling ethnic Russians in newly conquered territories while extracting natural resources. This pattern continues to influence modern social dynamics, with initiatives defending cultural and national identities often forced underground or into exile. Current polling data indicates a significant shift in public sentiment, particularly in regions affected by ongoing military operations. In Belgorod Oblast, recent attacks resulted in 24 deaths and 152 injuries within just 2 weeks, leading to widespread evacuation and disruption of daily life. These events have intensified existing social tensions and contributed to a growing sense of instability in border regions. The Russia-Ukraine war update today continues to exacerbate these social divisions, as ethnic Russians increasingly view themselves as defenders against perceived external threats. This mindset has led to heightened tensions between majority and minority populations, threatening the delicate balance of Russia's multi-ethnic society. Security infrastructure collapse. The deterioration of Russia's security infrastructure presents an unprecedented challenge to national stability, as mounting evidence suggests a systematic breakdown of law enforcement capabilities and border control mechanisms. Russia's border security system faces severe strain, particularly along its extensive 13,000-kilometer frontier with newly independent states. The situation has deteriorated significantly, with several critical vulnerabilities emerging: inadequate protection of new borders with post-Soviet states, exponential growth in cross-border criminal activities, and insufficient resources for effective border monitoring. The border guard and customs services struggle with widespread corruption, leading to ineffective control over critical areas. Recent assessments indicate that despite seizing hundreds of kilograms of contraband annually, estimated trafficking volumes through the Russia-Kazakhstan border alone reach tens of thousands of tons. The collapse of law enforcement effectiveness manifests in multiple dimensions. National-level civilian authorities maintain only limited control over security forces in Chechnya, where they answer exclusively to regional leader Ramzan Kadyrov. This has resulted in the emergence of parallel security structures, including local armed formations known as Kadyrovtsi, estimated to number between 10,000 and 30,000, and private armies operating outside federal control. Informal enforcement mechanisms further undermine the rule of law. The security apparatus demonstrates significant dysfunction through impunity for perpetrators of abuse, lack of judicial transparency, and ineffective investigation mechanisms. The situation is further complicated by the presence of approximately 38,000 fighters from Chechnya participating in various military operations. This has created a complex web of loyalties and command structures, further undermining centralized control. Recent developments indicate a concerning pattern of security infrastructure degradation. The National Guard's effectiveness has been compromised by internal conflicts and divided loyalties. Meanwhile, the Federal Security Service maintains only a nominal presence in the region, with most defense and security units operating under local control. The impact on the civilian population has been severe, with reports indicating systematic harassment at checkpoints, widespread use of torture in detention, and arbitrary arrests and disappearances. These security challenges are exacerbated by the presence of landmines in up to 56% of Chechnya's arable land. The absence of proper documentation regarding minefield locations has paralyzed agricultural activity and poses ongoing risks to the civilian population. The deterioration of security infrastructure has led to the withdrawal of international humanitarian organizations, citing the dangerous security environment and prevalence of hostage-taking. This has created a vacuum in civilian protection and humanitarian assistance, further destabilizing the region. Russia faces an existential threat through Chechenya's potential secession, with cascading effects that could trigger national collapse. Historical patterns from the Soviet Union's dissolution suggest rapid fragmentation becomes possible once initial breakaway movements succeed. Economic devastation would follow through disrupted energy infrastructure and trade routes, while military strategic positions in the Caucasus region would become untenable. Democratic nations must prepare for potential Russian state collapse while supporting regional stability. Russia's future hangs in balance, with Chechen independence potentially triggering the transformation of the entire post-Soviet space. What do you think about this issue? Will Chechnya secession make Russia's war with Ukraine more difficult? If you think so, please comment 1 to let us know. Thanks for watching.